What do you think are some common mistakes from your interaction with your clients that people make as they implement AI and maybe rush towards deployments or external deployments?
So some of the ones that I would say are like the bigger ones that come to mind would be first not having an established goal in mind. So I've seen it's like a 60-40 right now. So it's like 60% of the people that talk to me for engagements, they're like, "Hey, we want to apply AI because," and there's nothing after that. It's just silence. And it's like, "Oh wait, hold on." And like that, I have to poke and prod. And sometimes like the answers are because my boss said so, or because the board wants it, or because whatever else. And there's no logical reason as to why they want to apply. They just want to do it because everybody else is doing it. They're keeping up
Hmm.
with the Joneses. And that's okay to a degree, but you need to have some sort of rationale and ROI associated to the project and the initiative to then reap the rewards of applying the tool. That's one. Another one is connected to that is the lack of evaluations. So if you don't have a goal, then that's the bad issue. But if you do have a goal, you need to then measure the AI's ability to achieve said goal. And oftentimes when people implement AI, especially AI that's more chat oriented or
Hmm.
more, I would say, AI heavy, you need to be able to figure out a way to evaluate that AI's ability to be in line with what you would expect a human to do. And to do that, you need to set out a bunch of criteria of, say, put out 50 questions, and you have one human answer all 50 questions, and then you have the AI answer all 50 questions, and then you compare. And you see how many times the AI get it wrong. And once you figure that out, then you feed that back into the system to then improve it to get it closer to what the human would say. And over time, you need to keep on evaluating the AI on those performances. And that's one thing I see a lot of companies miss is the lack of both specific evaluations and also binary evaluations. Yeah.
And so those evaluations, are they, are you thinking they're tied to a goal or just ensuring that there's integrity in what you're getting back from the AI?
So they should be tied to a specific goal in
Uh-huh.
line with what that project is. For example, if I have an AI that answers questions in relation to medical information associated to my website. So I have a website that has a bunch of blogs and a bunch of maybe wikis or something. And I have people coming to the site to ask questions about the specific tool that I sell or drug that I have or whatever else. And we need to make sure that the AI answers that question accurately. So then how do we create evaluation criteria for accurate? So one would be, is it referencing and citing the right source is one. Another one is it accurately calling out these 3 points related to the question that was asked? Yes, no. And you want to make sure they're binary because if they're not binary, then
Mm.
people debate.
Yeah.
Is like between 1 and 10, they argue it's a 7 or an 8. Like which one's better and how do we know? And things like that. So I would say figuring out specific criteria for the given task you've given to the AI and then making sure those evaluations are binary.
And do you keep that going on over
Yep.
time just to make sure it's is that what kind of a hallucination protection mechanism, or is it some
Yeah.
what would you call that? Just
Yeah, so it's just a way to ensure the AI is performing at its best in the way that you want it to. So it could be mitigating hallucinations, it could be mitigating the AI's inaccuracy of pulling in data from different sources when it should. So maybe you don't
mm,
want it to go to the internet, you want it to go to your website, but it keeps going to the internet.
ah,
That's a flaw in your system prompt. Or that's a flaw in a flag that you've set up for the tool. So there's a variety of different ways that one needs to hone the model to then target it towards a given task to perform its best.
pretty cool. And you're saying that often this is not done.
Yep.
People pretty much, if they do have clear goals, they just make the assumption that the AI is staying, if you will, on the reservation and continuing to provide good results.
Yeah, no, often they treat it like a black box. They like a magic black box where if I drop something in, it's going to work perfectly every time. And if they lack evals and they lack goals, then they have a bad taste in their mouth from the AI and from the experience they had with the AI. And then sometimes they dismiss it. They're like, "Oh, well, it's not there yet. So we'll wait 6 months to a year to then try it again." And by doing that, they're actually hurting themselves in the long run because their competitors are likely effectively doing this
Opportunity
now.
cost. Yeah.
Right. So they're doing it effectively now and you're not. So then by the time you retry it in 6 months, that competitor already has 6 months of experience implementing AI effectively against you. And it's not linear, but it's
Mm.
exponential because their ability to compound those learnings into newer models and newer features is much faster than you. So they're always likely going to be ahead of you in these aspects of the things that matter for the business.
And do you find that most of your engagements, you're really in this space of how to interact effectively with the tools and how to I mean, the first thing you said was often they don't have a clear picture as to what they're even gonna do with AI. They have no goals or they're just responding or reacting to board or top senior leadership, "Thou shalt use AI, make something good happen," requests. You spend most of your time in this space on how to be oriented to and train the human part of this equation to work effectively with the tools. Is that where most of your time goes?
I would say initially most of my time goes towards education. So it's basically asking discovery questions, figuring out exactly what they want to achieve, and trying to get them to avoid the topic of AI at all costs in the beginning
Mhm.
and only focus on business goals.
So
And
that's very classic approach to, systems,
mm,
implementing systems. That is the same thing we've preached for decades, right? Is don't give me a solution. Tell me what your problems are. Tell me specifically what you want to achieve. We'll talk about what's the right solution later. And that's always been a challenge. Maybe it's
exactly.
more so a challenge now, going back to what you said about a lot of people viewing AI as sort of the magic black box.
Right. And that's exactly what happens here is where you ask these questions and you avoid the topic of AI because it does distort their vision. And when you focus on the business, oftentimes the solution to the problem they've brought up, that's the highest priority because if solution is solved, then it gets them closer to the said goal within a shorter time frame. It may not even have AI involved. It may just be basic code, basic automations. And if it does have AI, maybe it's like 10% of the process.
Mm.
So if you have 100%, 10% is AI oriented and the rest is automated through code. And the things like that, that's why it's important to kind of stay away from the AI conversation because you don't want to start with AI in mind. Often if you do that, you spend a lot of time, waste a lot of resources, etc.
So there so we talked about one myth about, the magic black box. AI is gonna just sort of read your mind and give you something great as a result, I guess. Are there other myths that you have come across when dealing with businesses when it comes to AI?
Hmm. Here's a good one. So open source. A lot of people like to talk about open source models and using models locally because of
Mm,
privacy reasons or whatever else. Very rarely do they realize the amount of effort it takes not only just to stand up those models effectively, but to maintain them over time and not realizing the lack of quality to the model, usually to the use case they care about. So, almost every single client I've worked with, I have never recommended local models.
mm,
And it's not because I can't do it, because I used to have to do local models for some government contracts that I did in previous roles. But you have to constantly have GPUs up and running. You have to worry about the infrastructure of latency between GPUs. You have to always be training and fine tuning these models for given tasks over time. You have to do a variety of things that people don't realize that is involved with local models. So it's usually a no-brainer just to go with commercial because it's ridiculously cheap. The quality is 10 times better, if not more,
mhm,
and the ease of implementation is night and day. So
mm.
people just don't realize how big the delta is between the two.
And we talked about this when you jumped on our professional community meeting to talk to CIOs. And I mean, they're very concerned about data leakage
True.
and trade secrets, even in the prompting process, exposing kind of the company's direction. But none of them want to stand up their own environment either.
Mhm.
This is just a curiosity. Do you see that those security concerns have been addressed by the large models that are available on the cloud to a
Mostly,
greater
yeah.
degree? Yeah.
Yeah, so I've worked with all types of organizations of all sizes, and you can buy different types of plans and establish different types of contracts with OpenAI and Anthropic and Google that are that meet all the compliance needs one would want to care about and know about. So, and the privacy associated data is fine. They can turn off training so your data is not trained on. You can have your data purged every day and or every 30 days, depending on the provider. You can make sure that your data is separated in a secure enclave. You can establish like there's all types of things you can do with these providers that meet the compliance needs of these organizations. So there's almost like no reason to do anything locally.
Hey, thanks for joining me today on Titans of Transition. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please check the show notes for additional information.